what I've learned to appreciate more this year is definitely my family, Anthony. It's I've missed out a lot of things. Like any restaurateur that has children, you miss out on those things. When your child's growing up, it could be that school concert, it could be that first sports day, or whatever it might be. But one thing I've definitely learned to appreciate is, spending time with my loved ones.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. No matter the adversity, there are always positives to be found. Some appear instantaneously, others may not reveal themselves until we've had a chance to sift through the wreckage. The pandemic has impacted many in many different ways, but what has become evident is the chance to change, to look for positives and steer the ship in a new direction. George Kasimatis is the owner of George's on Waymouth in Adelaide, South Australia. George, how are you?
Very well, Anthony. Nice to hear you.
Thanks for joining us. We're fast approaching summer. We've just had the Melbourne Cup last week, which is notoriously busy for restaurants. What's this period looking like for you in Adelaide with the restaurant?
Things start to definitely heat up normally with Melbourne Cup. It is the restaurant's birthday, and we celebrated 18 years last week. So
Wow.
yeah, it was a. To be honest with you, it was probably a day I thought we weren't going to get to this year after the events of 2020. But it was quite an emotional day, to say the least, and saw 18 years flash by my eyes very quickly that day. But a day that went really well, and having our regulars in, and just seeing the team together, and working as a unit and looking after the people like we do was a beautiful thing, and I was very grateful for. So yeah, it was great. But in general, yeah, look, like for a lot of us in this industry, this time of year tends to heat up, and the bookings are starting to come in for Christmas, and the phone's ringing a little bit more, and it's definitely things are getting better, and we just need to look at the positives and push on from there.
18 years is pretty extraordinary in the hospitality sector, and you mentioned that earlier this year you thought you may lose it all. Can you take us back to that time and when the pandemic first happened and what sort of impact it had?
Well, I definitely won't forget our last day. Our last day we traded was Saturday, March 21, and that was we weren't told that we'll be closing up shop, but the next day we were given the instructions that we were forced and had to close. I must say the Monday that followed wasn't the best of days. The phone didn't stop ringing, but it was ringing due to cancellations. We lost probably a good 30 to 35 events that were booked in for the following probably 2 to 3 months. And majority of the guests wanted their deposits back. So, we had to repay quite a bit of money back to our customers. Some said, look, leave the money there, George, and, we'll leave it in credit. And, once we're over this, or when we're over this, we'll rebook with you. It was quite a daunting day or week ahead. And, we had, I had a meeting with all my crew, and, sat them down just to discuss, because I think it was just took everyone by surprise. I think in a way, some say they expected this, others didn't. We didn't know to what extent this was going to affect our industry and our business. But sitting down with the staff and going through it with them in a small way to talk about, what do we do from here? Where does the business go? I think it was more or less wanting to make the staff feel secure, to let them know that that I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. And our intention is to always push on. So we needed that time just to stop, think, and see how we were going to move forward during this closure.
With all of those events cancelled and the restaurant closed, what were some of the things you did to ensure revenue was coming in and keep the business afloat?
Yeah, so the week after the closure, we actually had the restaurant closed for about 10 days, and had to really sit down and think, what could we offer? How can we, stay connected with our customers, and just keep ourselves front and center, so that hopefully one day, when we can reopen, that we had some sort of leverage and some sort of momentum moving forward. So I, I emailed and contacted a majority of my staff, and we got together, and I just said to the guys, we have to reopen. We can't just sit here and do nothing. Just for the good of the business, for the good of ourselves, and also for our own mental state, for for us as individuals to just keep pushing forward and offering something to our customers. So we, instead of going down the model of just general takeaway, we were never geared for that. So we thought, why don't we put together something? And we offered George's to go, which was a hamper that you could pre-order by Thursday of every week to be picked up or delivered on the Saturday of the same week. So the first one we launched was for Easter, which was very successful. And then we thought, well, let's continue this with the Orthodox Easter. So the following week we put an Orthodox inspired pack together. I contacted one of my friends who has a Greek bakery who made some lovely tsureki, is a Greek inspired Easter bread. We involved wineries locally as well. So every week with these hampers that we offered, we supported a different winery every week locally to also give them some support. So that's we pushed on with that, and Mother's Day was around the corner, and before you know it, that was actually our most popular weekend, where we completely sold out of all our hampers, which I was just so grateful for and overwhelmed. And again, it was just the way, the reconnection with our customers and having them come in, and it was really interesting, actually, Anthony. A lot of them actually wanted to drive in and pick it up and say hello. They actually didn't want us to deliver it to them. They wanted to come in and say, George, can we come and say g'day? Can we come and buy some wine? Can we, so it was just great to see the faces and connect with our customers, because ultimately that's what the industry is about. It's hospitality is not a online business. Well, it can be, but to me, hospitality is about being in front of people, sharing stories and providing a service and looking after their needs. And we did that in a small way, and hopefully we touched a few people's lives along the way. And so we kept going with it, through closure, right up until end of May, until we were given the opportunity to reopen our restaurant beginning of June. So
you also run a wine import business, and I know your heritage is Greek, and you're very proud and champion food and wine from Greece. Can you tell us a bit about that import business and what happened during the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. So Byzantine Wine Merchants was born definitely through my love of heritage and that of wine. And in 2016, I actually was invited over to Greece with a handful of local SOMs, as in from around the country, invited by an importer to go over and do a whirlwind trip throughout Greece, like in 7 days. I was literally fly in, meet in Athens, fly up north, visit a few wine regions, back down to Athens, down to Crete, back to Athens, and back to Australia. So it was quite an inspirational trip to go back home, which I hadn't been back since I was a little boy, and to visit some of these producers that we've been selling wine for many years in the restaurant, but also share that experience with some other like-minded individuals that have a love of wine, not just for Greek wine, but for wine in general. And coming back just made me think, there's something here. Why don't I take my passion for this and turn it into a small business? So, a year later, Byzantine Wine Merchants was born, and we grew from there. So we work with 6 producers, generally one producer from each appellation throughout the country, but we have a focus purely on indigenous varietals. So Greece, 80% of the varieties in Greece are indigenous to the country. So they're quite unique, and we wanted to focus purely on those varietals. And we now supply restaurants around the country. We have a lot of private buyers, and George's on Waymouth is a key has a key position in this, because it's like the restaurant's like our tasting room, really, in a way, and it enables us to show these wines to our customers, throughout lunch and dinner. And we also have tailored tastings in the restaurant as well. But Byzantine Wine Merchants had a big influence during lockdown, as we had customers who wanted to, until the government gave us the permission, and the liquor authority gave permission for restaurants to deliver, wine to homes, or to be included, with takeaway. Well, we used our license, which is run separately to the restaurant, to supply to individuals, and those that wanted wine to be to be consumed at home, because you can imagine the uptake would have been, I think everyone was, I think, hitting the bottle a little bit during that time, and it gave us an opportunity to to showcase our wines, but also provide that service, not just when not just when they came in to pick up takeaway, but also to have it delivered to the door as well. Had a major role, and it to a degree it probably saved us as well, Anthony, as far as having that side of the business as well.
You've played an integral role in the hospitality sector of Adelaide for 2 decades now, but you didn't grow up in Adelaide. Can you tell us how you got started in the industry?
Yeah, so I'm a Canberra boy. I was born and brought up there. I studied hospitality as a boy back home, and my father, literally up until probably only 2 years ago, had the downtown milk bar in Manuka, and Dad was there for like over 45 years. And as a kid,
Wow.
it was quite special, and I'll never forget for the rest of my life. From school, I'd go to Dad's milk bar, and Dad would say, "All right, well, get your homework sorted because you've got work to do." So I would finish the homework in the office, and Dad would be like, "It's time to come out. Let's start mopping the floor. Let me show you how to make a great espresso. Let me show you how to balance the till." So that's how Dad got me started, and that was the same for my brother and my sister. And I just always had a love of work, and Dad brought me up to work, and it's one thing which I really appreciate. So, the way my father brought us up, if I could bring my boys half as well up as what Dad has brought us up, I'd be a very, very happy man. So, for Dad, it was more about, teaching us the way, knowing that, or understanding that, things don't come for free. You need to work for it, and you need to respect what you have, and to achieve that, it comes with hard work. So it's definitely something that Dad instilled in us, and I still use those that sort of philosophy here, even in my restaurant today, where Dad said that it's all about your respect, your integrity, and your humility, and how you approach things, especially your work, and you need to deliver that. And that's how we service our guests. So, yeah, Canberra. Fond memories. My first restaurant was back home. After waitering and being a kitchen hand in my teenage years, and my first restaurant was a place called Cafe Pronto, which was a restaurant that a Melburnian Greek opened in the suburb of Braddon, just on the outskirts of the city there, and it was just purely focusing more on the public service trade, and coming in and having and a selection of different pastas and salad and garlic bread. So it was quite traditional, the checkered tablecloths, and it was quite a place. And I was working there as a waiter, and the owner actually said to me, "Look, George, I'm planning on going overseas for a few months. How would you feel about looking after the business for me?" And he sort of stopped, he paused, and then he said, "Well, if you're interested, you might even want to buy it." I said, "Well, yeah." Well, yeah. I thought, why not? So, so, so he's a 21-year-old thinking to himself, how's he going to gather some money, maybe a partner or two, and get into his first restaurant? So, cut a long story short, I got together with two close friends of mine, and spoke to Dad, and he helped me go to the bank, and we borrowed some money, and off we went. And we got into a business that we could see had a lot of potential, and we increased the trading hours, and we put out a nice sort of outdoor dining area, and that we had a lot of success there. And then after that, it was time for me to move on and help Dad a little bit more in his business. And then, before I moved to Adelaide, I managed quite a few restaurants in Canberra, and came here, and the rest is history. And I've been here for the last over 20 years now.
Well, George's has been, one of the stable restaurants in Adelaide for 2 decades, and You really are one of the hubs of the food scene there. How much has food changed in Adelaide in that time that you've had the restaurant?
Oh, look, I think it's changed considerably. I think, look, I think the food scene in Adelaide not only has it grown, but it's just nice to see that a lot of chefs, especially, are staying here. They're not, moving to the eastern seaboard like they were at one stage. So, if you look at, the venues that are around the city and the selection that we have, I think, we're quite fortunate to have a lot of our talent stay in this city. With our restaurant, I remember when we opened, there was actually Waymouth Street was a bit of a ghost town. It was well, actually the only restaurant on the strip when we opened, and there was a little cafe just up the road called Manor Cafe, and I thought, there was an opportunity here because I was working with Chong Lu at the Grange. So the great Chong Lu, I worked with him at the Grange restaurant at the Hilton Hotel, and there was an opportunity to come here, and the landlord was sort of bugging me, saying, come on, George, there's a great opportunity here. There's a great site. Come and have a look at it. Love you to come in. And I came here and just sat here on my own, and I thought, what could I do here? And I felt that there was a need to service the corporate sector, the CBD, the business hub, and even though it was a quieter part of quieter part of the town at the time, I just saw the potential to tap into that market. So before you know it, I've signed a lease and taken the plunge, and yeah, and things have definitely changed a lot over the years here in the restaurant. Where when we opened, we were only trading for breakfast and lunch Monday to Friday, and dinner Friday night only, and no weekends. So it was a bit like, a bit like the dream hours of our industry. But like anything, the precinct grew. And some great restaurants have come on the strip, and with it, I think or we needed to grow with that. So, we added Thursday and Saturday night to the mix, and then a couple of years later we added Wednesday, then we added Tuesday, and then we added Monday night. So we grew with it, and then in 2013 we opened up a private dining room upstairs, as we felt there was a market for that in the city. If you take away the hotels, there's not a lot of private dining rooms available, so that we wanted to tap into that market as well. And like the good old saying, "Wish we did it, earlier," sort of thing. Which it's been going really well for us, and yeah. So, but unfortunately, obviously, things have definitely changed this year, and but having a larger venue has benefited us when it comes to restriction of numbers, etc.
You've won many accolades over the years, but what makes a great restaurant?
Uh, I think it's the people that make the restaurant. I think it's the people that you work with. I'm only as good as the people that are around me. Yes, my name's on the door, but it's important to build a team that is willing to share your vision and work with you. But more importantly, to serve people's needs, and I think that's what the industry is about. One thing I've learned is that we're in the business of serving people and looking after people, and that's something that I hold very close to my heart. So my view is that to make a great venue, people are going to leave their world to come into yours, and I think when they do that, you need to give them that love and that respect and that duty of taking care of them, and giving them an experience that they can hopefully take home and share with their family, their friends, and so on.
You mentioned just a little earlier that this year has changed things. What sort of changes have happened for the restaurant?
Well, when we like I mentioned earlier, we were never we never had a takeaway model, so it was quite interesting changing our booking system into an online ordering system, and making sure we're getting the right packaging, and I wanted to make sure we were trying to do things as best we could when it came to that offering. But then I thought to myself, when we get when we get out of this, how can we move forward as a venue and as an establishment? So we need to obviously sit down and look at how we were trading. So for starters, we put a line right through coffee and breakfast. So we used to trade for breakfast and coffee from 7 a.m. here at George's, and that was the first thing that we said to ourselves. We just had to we just had to stop that. We were looking at that before or pre-COVID, and COVID just brought it forward. So then we just moved to a model of just focusing purely on lunch and dinner. When lunch is over, we lock the doors. We set up for dinner. I ensure that my staff have their breaks. We're closed Sunday and Monday, so that way everyone has their 2 days off in a row. I was looking at ways where we could better the business, not just for the business itself and its profitability, but also for the staff, and to look at where we could improve. I always look at where we can improve working conditions and how can we make it better for the team. How can we keep them fresh and focused and so on. So the trading hours was a big aspect in that. So it's definitely something that we're glad we did, and even though we're still down a certain percentage with revenue, we can definitely see the benefits of focusing more on shorter time frames. So we're focusing more on trying to have a higher or maximum spend between that 12 till 3, that 6 till 8. Push the event side of things for the venue, and just keep it really tight. And it's I think that's definitely been a big positive moving forward for the venue. Yeah.
At the top of the show, you mentioned how many events were cancelled because of COVID. But what's that space looking like now for the restaurant moving forward? Is events starting to open up again?
Oh, look, they definitely are. We're seeing right now. It's interesting. When we opened in June, we thought, just in general for a la carte bookings, that there would be quite a big uptake because everyone wanted their fix, and we saw that. And I thought, is this going to last? Once everyone's had their sort of sugar hit, I'm thinking maybe things might drop off a little, which they did. So sort of coming into August, September, I felt things dropped off a little bit for our business. And then into September, leading into October, I definitely started, seeing the increase of interest for group bookings. The phone was ringing more. A lot of customers, I think, were trying to get in early for their Christmas event, still not knowing whether or not COVID was going to have an impact. But we've been quite fortunate in South Australia as far as the restrictions, and I think we're doing, we're very lucky that we can, have X amount of guests in our venue at any one time. So, yeah, we've definitely seen a big increase, and like I don't think I have a Friday or Saturday available in our private room from, I think, mid-November right through to Christmas, which is, it's a great start. So now hopefully we can pick up some a la carte bookings to bolster that, and it looks really positive. Looks really positive. So hopefully it can stay that way. But but we're still having there's certain groups cancel because it's company policy for them not to be able to have a group event, or they're not allowing their staff to fly interstate. So even though things are easing around the country, I still find that certain companies are still quite fixed on not allowing staff to either travel or be amongst a large gathering, even though the cases have eased considerably. Yeah.
You mentioned how much the restaurant model has changed because of COVID. How much have you changed? What's this year been like for you, someone who's run a restaurant for 2 decades and been so influential in Adelaide? What sort of impact has it had on you?
Oh, look, personally, look, it's oh, yeah, look, it's a huge impact for me. I think what I've learned. Look, I've always appreciated it, but what I've learned to appreciate more this year is definitely my family, Anthony. It's I've missed out on a lot of things. Like any restaurateur that has children, you miss out on those things. When your child's growing up, it could be that school concert, it could be that first sports day, or whatever it might be. But one thing I've definitely learned to appreciate is, spending time with my loved ones. Even though a lot of my time was here, even during lockdown, but I managed to still get home of an evening. And I love cooking, actually, and it's. I don't think I've cooked. I think I've cooked more this year than I have in my entire life, Anthony. To be honest, and it's funny when my wife rings me up and says to me, "Are you coming home to cook tonight? Because your sons are asking." So, because I think they got to a stage where they got used to Dad coming home and cooking dinner and spending some time with them. But look, yeah, for me as an individual, it's look, it's definitely made me stronger, and but I'm not the only one. There's everyone I think's hurting in some way, and I think it's had positive and negative effects on everyone to some degree. But I think what's important is that you stay positive. Just keep telling your mind that we will get over this, and we will. And but it's just a matter, I think, of taking day by day, week by week, because there probably is still a little bit of that uncertainty out there. But I think it's important to have that positive frame of mind and do what you can, to keep yourself mentally sane, and to support those loved ones around you as well.
Tell us about the Greek community in Adelaide and what food means within the Greek community.
Oh, food for the Greek community. I think it's their life. It's everything. I remember, you know, having family dinners as a child growing up, and Dad would demand that everyone's at the table eating together. It's obviously something that doesn't happen probably as much these days because everyone's time poor and usually wants to eat at different times. But I think food really is family, and I think in the Greek culture, it's what brings everyone together, to be able to sit down, break bread with the ones that you love. And that's another thing that we put through in our restaurant, as far as when it comes to looking after guests, having guests coming into our venue, and that's why we want to look after them, because they want to escape and enjoy the time that they have with their friends or their family. But for Greeks themselves, I think it's the essence, it's the center of coming together. And that could be for a celebration, it could be for a birthday, it could be for a wedding, it could be for a christening. So you wouldn't have seen too many big weddings this year in the Greek community, that's for sure, like you would normally. But I think it plays an integral role, and there are many great operators in South Australia, and it's just nice to share. I think a lot of things that have happened this year amongst our industry, and I've been able to do that with a lot of restaurant owners. Not just Greek, and connect with them as well, and share our experiences, and even just also support one another, which has been very, very important.
Are there any Greek dishes that you have fond memories of and that you may have tried your hand at during this time this year when you've been cooking more than ever?
Look, one of my it's funny. One of my favourite probably dishes to make is spanakopita, the Greek spinach pie. It's always something that I've always tried to perfect and change, but it's definitely one that I've always loved to attack, and also a yummy star, the stuffed tomatoes and capsicums and peppers and so on, which my mother used to make many a time, and I just used to devour. And when she did so, it's definitely something that I hold close to my heart. And but yeah, it's again just being able to share that with family is fantastic. Yeah.
We're heading into summer and hopefully restaurants will fill up again like they do every summer. What sort of food can people expect at George's?
Oh, look, I think we're in the midst now of looking at our preparing for our next menu leading into the warmer months, leading into summer. So we will focus a lot more on lighter dishes. Our philosophy has always been to offer something fresh, local. Supporting local producers, local farmers. So, we're big on getting in fresh seafood. Big on the vegetables. We're going to be coming into a season where you've got cherries, you've got stone fruits, you've got there's so many beautiful things. It's a beautiful time of year. So definitely something where we focus more on seasonality, freshness, and we also like to look at our cuisine as it's evolved over the years, but having that Mediterranean, Eastern European influence is always a factor, and something that will push a little bit more into the new year as well.
There's been a lot of adversity this year for so many, but there's been so many positives to take from that, especially for the industry in regards to change and rethinking how to run restaurants. How do you think the restaurant industry is going to fare in the next period of time, and what's some of the positives that we can take from this experience?
Look, I think our industry look, I think it's resilient. I think we'll be, we'll push through and get through this pandemic. I think, look, I think what each and every individual business offers will differ, but our perspective is to look at, what we've learned from this year and to take that into 2021 and see where it can go. Um, you know, I look at what's happened in Adelaide, but then I think, my goodness, look at Melbourne. Melbourne's, had the worst of it, um, and if anything, it's taught me not to be complacent, and what I want to do is, just focus on what we can do best as far as, looking after every guest, taking the industry forward in a way where we can provide, consistent level of service, attention, and love and care given to the customer, to our team. I think the industry, will be better for it. It's going to learn from it. It has already, and it's funny. I had this conversation a few days ago with another or two, talking about the casual aspect of dining and the fine dining side of dining, and some are saying, the fine dining side's dead or it's gone, and I sort of tend to disagree with that to a degree where, I think today the guests are wanting to come out more for an experience as maybe what they did before in the past. It could have been more for a celebratory day or evening, where it could be for a birthday or an anniversary. But I find, because of the impact of COVID, I see that people are wanting to go out more regularly and have a really great experience, and know they can go out and enjoy that, not just once every 3 months, but on a regular basis. Could be once a week, it could be once a fortnight, but just wanting to go out and and have that experience and appreciate, I think, what the industry has to offer as well, where I see a lot of our customers, and I see customers in general out there, I think, appreciating our industry more, and saying to themselves, yeah, I don't mind paying a deposit for a booking, or I don't mind having to only stay for an hour and a half or 2 hours. I have to, because they get it. So I think it's very important for our industry as a whole moving forward, and it's just nice, I think, to have customers understand that and relate to what we're going through and what the industry is going through as a whole.
You mentioned that you grew up in the family milk bar in Manuka, which is legendary in Canberra. What's some of your fondest memories of the milk bar growing up?
Oh, one thing I won't, I haven't, I will never forget is, you know, Dad, going to the milk bar in the mornings. Like, he'd kiss Mum goodbye at 5:30 in the morning, go to the milk bar, set his outside tables up, and then before you know it, obviously during school holidays or the days that I went in with Dad early, I noticed there was a lot of, a lot of people coming to visit Dad, and a lot of friends, and that you know they'll be lining up because they wanted Dad to make the coffee, and just seeing Dad make that espresso, and and having those chats with his customers over the counter, and seeing a family come in, and then next thing you know, their kids are coming in, and then they're grown up, and before you know it, they're bringing in their kids. So Dad saw so many generations, I think, come through there, and I think that's something that's definitely stood out for me. The relationships that that Mum and Dad had in that milk bar, and the connections, and and just seeing, I suppose, Dad work, and looking at the way he approached work and life, and he just got on with it. So I think the connections and the relationships that Dad built in that business, stand up for a lot, and I was really proud to see.
Well, George, thank you so much for joining us on Deep in the Weeds. It's been amazing to catch up with you, and so many beautiful sentiments about connection there as well. Please keep in touch, and we'll talk again soon.
Definitely, Anthony, and can I just thank you as well for doing these podcasts? It's meant a lot to me, and it's been great to listen to the selection of great professionals that we have in our industry. So it's a credit to you and your team, and well done. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, George. This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.